right, I call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the 34th City Council for February 28, 2024 at 7 p.m. Everyone in attendance, can you please silence your cell phone or any communication devices as to not disturb the meeting? Mr. Clerk, can we have the roll?
Yes, Councilmember Enos.
Here.
Councilmember Hamud. Here. Councilmember Abraham.
Here.
Councilmember Paris.
Here.
Councilmember El Sawafi.
Here.
Councilmember Herrick. Council President Sereni.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Councilman Ken Paris. Ken?
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, everyone. At this time, I'd like to turn the meeting over to introducing Reverend Monica Ola from the Help Is Near Missionary Ministries Church, who will give the invocation at tonight's meeting. And everyone who is able, if you could kindly stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance afterward.
Let us pray. Oh, gracious Lord, thank you for this day. We possess the privilege to come humbly but boldly to your throne of grace, and for this we are thankful. May our meeting and tonight's agenda be conducted with patience, respect, integrity, honor, wisdom, and good judgment. Thank you for each man and woman representing our city council, our mayor, and our municipal servants. Please continue to grant strength for our leaders and this wonderful and growing city, as well as the citizens of Dearborn. Father, I also ask special supplication for our citizens, peace, prosperity, as well as Dearborn's posterity, and protection over its citizens. We are certainly better together, so may we be guided by your spirit in recognizing this fact. Now, may we, O Lord, experience that peace which exceeds anything we can understand. So let it be written, so let it be done. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Pastor. We appreciate this. This is your first time, right?
Yes.
Excellent job.
Thank you.
And I thank Councilman Paris for bringing you into this rotation. It's always great to get that in the beginning, so we do appreciate it. Thank you. And you don't have to stay for the whole meeting, just so you know.
I explained that, Council.
Okay, all right. Mr. Clerk, can we have the first item of business?
Item number 4, resolution by Council President Sereni in need of support, acknowledging Mary Bruno for her 40 years of service for the City Beautiful Commission and requesting immediate effect.
Mr. Clerk, the support is by Councilman Abraham. Got it?
Yes.
Okay. So I am, just a brief introduction, Mrs. Mary Bruno has been a staple in our Dearborn community. If you haven't heard the name, then you might not have been in Dearborn too many years. And Councilman Abraham had brought this up along with the mayor and myself to honor her for her over 40 years of service. So I'd like to turn this over to Councilman Abraham. And then after he concludes his comments, we're going to ask Mrs. Bruno and her family and to come to the front of the podium and the council to come down for our presentation of the citation. Councilman Abraham.
Thank you, Council President. Yes, as you indicated, Mary Bruno has been a staple in our community. So this recognition really comes on behalf of the council, the mayor and his team, as well as the entire Dearborn community. And so tonight we recognize Miss Mary Bruno and thank her for her over 40 years of service to the city of Dearborn. Mary Bruno was appointed to the Dearborn City Beautiful Commission on January 8th, 1980, and served 40 years up until her retirement on June 30th, 2020. Mary marched in many cleanup parades with kids, helped plant trees and flowers, distribute City Beautiful citations to homeowners and businesses for their efforts in keeping our city beautiful. She helped promote public interest in the appearance of the city, volunteered hundreds of hours to enhance the quality of life in our neighborhoods, and made sure to encourage others to do the same. Her dedication and vision has been instrumental in shaping our community into a vibrant and picturesque place as we know it today. Commissioner Bruno is a well-known community leader, and her years of service have had a profound impact on our city, both aesthetically and in spirit. Mary still serves on the Board of Ethics and was appointed here in December of 2008. We are proud to have such excellent individuals serving on our boards and commissions, and we are deeply grateful for her tireless commitment to our city. Before I read this on a more personal note, I've known Mary my whole life. And the old saying, it takes a village. The Bruno household, her kids, everybody in the neighborhood grew up together. And that house on Reuter and Morrow Circle was well known as a safe haven for all the kids to hang out and grow up together. And those type of friendships that go on for decades and decades and decades are sort of the fabric that makes Dearborn special. And as a commissioner, Mary has served our community well. I like to use the term ambassador because I think Dearborn is very special in that we have people like Mary Bruno out there as ambassadors for our government, our community, and the city in total. And she's done a wonderful job, not only as a commissioner, as an ambassador, but as a friend, a mother, an aunt, a grandmother, everything. So I'll read the citation and we'll move on. Thank you for 4 decades of service on Dearborn City Beautiful Commission. Your unwavering commitment to enhancing the beauty and livelihood of our city has left an indelible mark on our community. Your leadership, wisdom, and tireless efforts have not only contributed to the aesthetic appeal of our city, but have also fostered a sense of pride and belonging to its residents. Thank you for your remarkable dedication, service to several committees, and the tremendous sacrifices you have made to improve our beloved city of Dearborn, our community, and its residents. So on behalf of everybody, thank you, Mrs. Bruno.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Abraham. Now, if we can have the council down here. And Mrs. Bruno, did you want us to come up to you, or will you be able to make it up here? All right. I know that. It's only me and him to go with you and our And George, I'm sorry, and George. I know. Thank you. Thank you. All right, thank you very much for that brief display so we could hand out the citation. Mr. Clerk, a unanimous roll shall be attached. And next item is?
Item number 5 is our public comments.
All right, so at this time, the council has allowed 30 minutes before our regular agenda items for council to be addressed by the public. We have comment cards that you could fill out, which we have, and I will read them off. Just kindly reminder, you have a 3-minute limitation, and the clerk will give you a 30-second reminder once you are up here. And then again, any item that's on our agenda can be addressed at that time. The item is called, and then again, at the end of our council meeting, we have a unlimited public comment portion at that time as well. So if, I'm gonna go through these cards, and if someone doesn't have a card, you're more than welcome to stand up and speak without one, once I get through these. So first, we have Mr. Hassan Shami? Shaheen? Shaheen, yes, sir. So all you have to do is state your name and address for the record, and then you can address the council.
Hussein Shaheen.
Shaheen.
2651 Garrison Street, Dearborn.
Yes.
Good evening, council members. I actually just moved in the residence a couple years ago, and I'm here to find out about any appeals in regards to taxes, considering the house is 108 years old, and the tax bracket it's in is something that didn't make much sense to me, but I was asked to attend the council meeting and perhaps bring it up and see if there's any
Well,
appeals or anything.
yeah, Mr. Sheen, what I can tell you is we do have, Mr. Romer, we do have a tax appeal board, right? Correct?
Yeah, it's called the Board of Review. It's, so you should have received a notice of assessment, and if you disagree with that assessment, you can either go to the March Board of Review, or you can actually write like a narrative to them as to why you believe the assessment is incorrect, and they will accept that instead of appearing in person. But they meet, I think it's the 2nd or 3rd week of March, and you can take that. I assume this is for residents, you said?
Yes.
Yeah, so you have to go to the March Board, and they will listen to your rationale for why it should be lowered, and they'll make a determination as to whether it should be or not.
Okay.
And then after that, you have the Michigan
So
tax.
I should have received an assessment already, or am I
Yeah, it's
receiving-
called the Notice of Assessment.
Yeah.
It
Well,
tells
they're
you
just
what,
going out, right, Mr. Romer? I mean,
Yeah,
they went out today?
They hit people's mailboxes.
Okay.
so you should receive it in the
I
next
should
few
be
days.
getting-
But Mr. Sheen, just so you know, for myself, thank you, Mr. Romer.
Thank
There
you.
is a very specific time frame in the law, statutory, on when you have to go through the process if you believe it was overassessed. But I just wanted, for the residents, our millage rate right now, our taxes, our millage rate, which is how they base it on, is less than it is in Dearborn Heights. So,
Okay.
yeah, I just want you, but I want you to understand, a lot of times when you buy a house that's that old, there's what they call, God. Yeah, it's, God, was it Proposal A?
Proposal A, yeah.
Proposal A. So if you were, the realtors really should advise you on that. If you bought a house from someone who has owned it for 30 or 40 or 50 years, the taxes are substantially different for them than for yourself, which is another subject that is not under the control of the councils for a state. But we're doing the best we can to keep the taxes down.
Okay. Thank
Fine.
you so
Thank you,
much.
sir.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have Ms. Maria Forgassi. You're welcome.
So, good evening. My name is Maria Fogarassi. I live at 2203 Long Boulevard. And Preservation Dearborn would like to thank Council President and the entire council for the study session that you held last week. We were very, very grateful. We were also particularly grateful that you allowed Mr. Devin Anderson of Quinn Evans, with a whole slew of preservation titles behind his name, to answer questions and clear up misconceptions at the end. So we are here, or I am here basically to hope that this might go forward and not just stay as a study session, but might evolve into 2 readings and a vote so we can get this historic district ordinance updated. You asked last week what council would have to do if it were to be updated, and as we heard, a commission would be created. We are happy to suggest names for the commission if you would like us to do so. So you could look at 3 things that the Historic District Ordinance could do if it were updated in the city of Dearborn. First one is a district. We have to admit that's a tall order, but we do have the Ford homes that already have local designation that could theoretically go for state if they so choose to go through the work. And there would be a study committee, there would be public hearings, there would be a vote, and you, City Council, and I will repeat this at the end, always have the final say regardless of what the vote is in that neighborhood. Then there are single property designations. designations, not necessarily in a neighborhood, because as Mr. Anderson said, that it is preferred that if you get a district, it is contiguous, but if you take single property designations such as Old City Hall, or the Commandant's Quarters, or some of our beautiful schools like Fordson, or one or two of the other ones, Salina, Lowry, that are in danger of being torn down in the next couple of years. Maybe we could get a historic designation for them. Maybe we could save some of them under the guise also that, quote, the greenest building is the one that's already been built. Don't tear it down, try to renovate it. Good for the environment. And the third thing for the business community would be certified local government. This is a partnership between the State Historic Preservation Office, which is the same one that okays the updated language on the ordinance, and the National Park Service. And they partner with cities who demonstrate that there is an interest in preservation, and we're talking about the downtown, we're talking about the business districts, and if you are a CLG, which of course Mr. Anderson said we do not qualify for because we have no updated HDO, that we could apply
seconds.
for, thank you, for grants for cities, for businesses. I mean, we were talking to Christina Shepherd-Decius about this, and it was in her interest to advocate for an updated historic district ordinance. That did not happen at the time. So we're here to say that we're hoping that we will go forward and get those two readings and get that vote and get that ordinance updated, because Brad Mendelson has done all the language and he answered all the questions last week, and it's there. It's just waiting to go forward just a little bit. So thank you all for your time and for hearing us out. Thank you so much. Good evening.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Mary. Thank you. All right, next we have Miss Nancy Harmon.
Hi, I'm Nancy Harmon. I live at 22278 Morley Avenue. And I too want to say thank you for the study session. I know it's foundational. Somebody else used that term. But there should, if you need more information, especially if you're new and you haven't been through all of the other study sessions, hosting another study session with experts is not a big deal, and we can invite people. So just want to say thank you for that.
Of course, thank you thank you for also bringing Mr. Anderson. I felt, as the council knows, the council rules do not permit or do not allow speakers, but at the time I felt it was necessary, and under no objection from the council, since we had so much time, it was very good presentation. I felt it was, with the expertise of Mr. Anderson, I thought it was well worth him speaking, so we do appreciate you bringing him. Thank you. Okay, at this time, if anyone else would like to address the council regarding city business, if you could please step forward, state your name and address for the record. Okay, hearing and seeing none, Mr. Clerk, we will close the first public comment portion, and can we proceed to the next item?
Item number 6, resolution in need of an offer and support.
Support.
Approving all of the items on the consent agenda and requesting immediate effect.
All right, before we move forward on the consent agenda, two things. Item number 11 has been withdrawn from the fire department, or is that the administration?
The PD.
Police department. Item 11 has been withdrawn, as they're still working on that. So the offer was by Councilman Enos. Are you okay with the withdrawal of number 11?
Yes, Council President.
Okay, and the support, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear both sides. Was it Ken or most?
I offer.
Council.
Or supported.
Supported, so,
Yeah.
so, Mr. Clerk, we have an offer by Councilman Enos and a support by Councilman Hammoud. Councilman Hammoud, are you also okay with removing item 11 per the request?
Yep.
Okay, so item 11 shall be removed. The rest shall proceed. Any other questions or comments on the consent? Okay, Mr. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote?
Yes, Councilmember Enos.
Yes.
Councilmember Hammoud.
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham.
Yes.
Councilmember Paris.
Yes.
Councilmember El Sawafi.
Yes.
Council President Sereni.
Yes.
We have 6 yeas, and the resolution passes.
All right. Next item.
Item number 12, resolution by council members Enos and Paris approving the minutes of the previous special closed meeting of January 30th, 2024.
All right, are there any additions, deletions, or modifications to these minutes? All right, hearing and seeing none, unanimous roll shall be attached. Next item.
Item 13, resolution by council members El Sawafi and Paris approving the minutes of the previous regular meeting of February 6th, 2024.
Okay, are there any additions, deletions, or modification to these minutes? Hearing and seeing none, a unanimous roll shall be attached. Next item, please.
Item 14, ordinance number 24-1806, introduced by Councilmember El Sawafi. Synopsis, an ordinance to amend the Parks and Recreation Chapter 15 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Dearborn by amending Section 15-53 entitled Dog Park Use Generally. Resolution by Councilmembers Enos and Perez to table the ordinance.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clerk. This amendment is to Section 15-53 and is being proposed to align with the new expiration of dog licenses. This will streamline the process for our residents to eliminate multiple trips to the city. This change will move the expiration of the dog park license from February 28th to March 31st annually. This is the first of 2 readings. This item might look familiar as it's come up before. This is being brought forward again due to the failure of our Dearborn Press and Guide to timely publish the ordinance regarding in compliance with our city charter. I know that my council members, I believe, have seen, Mr. Romer, your letter that we asked you to draft regarding notice, because this has happened, and I think you delineated 3 or 4 times.
3 times, yep.
3 times. So, you know, it hasn't happened in the past. Hopefully we can get it corrected, but they have not published it, and it requires it to be published, or we have to bring it back. So this is brought back at this time again. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the substantial license change date? Okay. So, Mr. Clerk, can we have the first reading?
Yes, this is the first reading of ordinance number 24-1806, an ordinance to amend the Parks and Recreations Chapter 15 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Dearborn by amending Section 15-53 entitled Dog Park Use Generally.
Okay.
Yes.
Hearing no objections, unanimous roll shall be attached. Next item.
Item 15, ordinance number 24-1807, introduced by Councilmember Harris. Synopsis, an ordinance to amend Section 9.02 of ordinance number 06-1111 of the City of Dearborn by rezoning the property located at 8918 Whitlock Street from a VP vehicular parking district to an RB 1 family residential district zoning classification. Resolution by Councilmembers Mood and El Sawafi to table the ordinance.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clerk. The applicant is requesting to rezone the portion of 8918 Whitlock, 90 feet approximately from VP vehicular parking district to residential B1 family residential district zoning classification. The 15 feet of the parcel currently zoned RB was purchased from the city as a side yard in 2021. The applicant is requesting to rezone the rest of the parcel to be consistent with the existing RB zoning so that they can construct a single-family home. The proposed rezoning eliminates encroachment on business and activity and parking into the residential neighborhood by establishing a clear neighborhood boundary. The proposed rezoning would allow for the property to be developed and generate taxable revenue to the city. The Planning Commission unanimously adopted this motion to approve the request on 8918 Whitlock on February 5th, 2024 at a public meeting. This is the first of 2 readings. Any questions or comments on this item?
I have a question.
Councilman Abraham.
I apologize, I wasn't here Thursday to
Okay.
ask this question. But is there a particular purpose for the RB as opposed to just RA? I assume the rest of the street is RB? And if you could also just highlight the significant differences between RB and RA so everybody understands that.
Yes, good evening, council. Kaylee Bianchini, planning and zoning. So the RB zoning, if you look at Exhibit C3 in the packet, you'll see that that whole entire Lanyo area is zoned RB as opposed to RA. Hence why we're recommending the rezoning to RB to be consistent with the Lanyo neighborhood. The main distinction between the RA and the RB zoning district is that the RB does allow through the special land use and site plan review a duplex, as opposed to in the RA, it only allows for essentially for the construction of a single family home. It does allow some other uses such as like religious institutions, et cetera, but obviously the size of the property would not be conducive for any other use.
With the 2-family duplexes, that also requires special land use too?
Yes,
Approval?
correct.
Okay. Sorry. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you. I think, yeah, we went over this, and I know, Councilman, there was some good questions too between the RA and RB, which was not asked, so we do appreciate your insight on that. But looking at the maps, I think it was, shouldn't have been VP anyways, if you ask me where it was located, but I could understand at that time for the businesses in the surrounding area. Any other questions or comments on this? Okay, thank you, Ms. Buchanan.
Thank you.
Ms. Clerk, can we have the first reading?
Yes, this is the first reading of ordinance number 24-1807, an ordinance to amend section 9.02 of the ordinance number 06-1111 of the city of Dearborn by rezoning the property located at 8918 Whitlock Street from a VP vehicular parking district to an RB one-family residential district zoning classification. Resolution by council members Hamud and Al Sawafi to table the ordinance.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, unanimous roll shall be attached to the table of ordinance. Next item, please.
Item number 16, ordinance number 24-1808, introduced by Councilmember Hamud. Synopsis, an ordinance to amend the nuisance chapter, chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Dearborn by adding Article 9, Section 13-531 to 13-558, entitled Bulk Storage and Handling.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clerk. The city currently does not specifically address handling of bulk solid materials. These materials can have the potential to contribute to significant debris that create negative impacts on both health of the residents and enjoyment of the property. The proposed ordinance aims to fill this gap by taking a regulatory approach similar to the one taken by the city of Detroit and establishing standards by which new existing facilities now must follow. The proposed ordinance regulates the storage of bulk solid materials in the city. The facilities that handle the bulk material are required to apply for a certificate of occupancy within the city, which mandates the facilities to meet minimum standards related to storage, handling, loading, and processing of bulk solid materials. Under the proposed ordinance, any facility in the city dealing with bulk material must follow the regulations aimed to reduce fugitive dust from moving beyond their property confines. These regulations, just some of them to highlight, are minimum control measures such as the capacity limits, measurement testing, and testing requirements. Another one is the approved fugitive dust plan detailing the facility's operation for controlling the dust and monitoring, record keeping, and contingency plans. Pile height limits restricting piles from a maximum of 25 feet and 15 feet if the material is combustible. Enclosed requirements for facilities handling carbonous materials, and vehicle requirements such as tarping truck beds, trailers, and rumble strips, and tire washing stations. We also have a provision for road cleaning and appeals process for variances and decisions made pursuant to our ordinance. The ordinance will take effect in 90 days after adoption, and existing facilities will have an additional 90 days to comply this ordinance. In addition to the ordinance, creates a public health fund similar to which is found in 13-5.3, where monies collected from fines will be used could be used for new facilities promoting public health and wellness regarding this issue in the fugitive dust. Application fees will range from $2,500 to $5,000 due to the complexity of this area and regulation, which requires specific certifications to review and interpret certain data. The city lacks experience in this field, and an outside vendor will be sought to assist with the review and enforcement of this ordinance. As a result, the cost of supervising fees is relative to the permitting fees of $25,000 to $5,000. This is the first of two readings. And before we proceed on this, I just wanted to make it for our council. We had a request for a study session on this by Councilman Al Sawafi and Councilman Paris. So since this is coming through for first reading, I just wanted to have it for the record. Do you agree to withdraw that request?
Absolutely, Council President. Yes.
Councilman Paris, okay, so they're both withdrawn. And George, that's our internal process, not for you. But
okay,
just so that we have it on the record that, as I indicated before, that we might be better off not having a study session and bringing this forward. As we had our meeting with the mayor, there was many things that were going on behind the scenes to try to get this to the right mix for our businesses to prosper, but also for our residents to be able to have healthy, clean air and not to violate or continue to violate rules that can cause impact on their health. So I do think this is a great balance and I think we are ready to move forward for it. So is there any questions or comments from my colleagues?
Yeah, just,
Councilman Hamud?
I had a chance to review the changes. One of them I did notice, it went from 500 feet to 300 feet notification. Is that because it brings us in line with the current like zoning variance notification? I guess that's a question for legal.
Yeah, it's to make it consistent with other notice requirements like the planning commission, those rezoning
Okay.
aspects.
Is there a reason why not 500 feet? Like, is there a?
Consistency is
Okay.
easier for the department. So if it's all one for any process for the department,
Okay.
it's easier for them to process without error. So we thought it made more sense to be more consistent.
Okay. No, otherwise, I mean, generally, it's a very well-written ordinance. I think a lot of the changes are fine and still in the spirit of what we were trying to do. We'll go more into the science and the nerdy stuff later when we pass it, but honestly, it's so well-written. I really appreciate it. A lot of it, funny enough, you can tell like legal really went very deep on this, so great job to Brad.
It's all Brad, yep.
Yeah, so honestly, it's a very well-written ordinance. I think, and I commented this in our study session, and I'll say this, kind of something that Councilman Abraham often says, you know, it's okay, we can still change it as we go through this. I don't think you were there, but I was like, in the spirit of Councilman Abraham, I don't necessarily know that we're gonna 100% get it right the first time.
That's right, that's the
but I think this is a very, very, very good first shot, and we'll see how it goes. But I think this is an issue that a lot of people have been talking about for a very long time, and so I'm so glad that we were finally able to get this done. I mean, we've been studying this for years at this point, so this is excellent.
No, I do appreciate it, and just along those comments, legal was very involved in this, and that's why it took time. I know we had some residents that weren't happy with how long it takes to bring something through, but when you're comparing people that have state licenses for city licenses, there is legal issues, and this was very aggressive. We're also asking for some of the carbonous material to be actually brought inside of a facility, which is the first of its kind, or to have a measure that will guarantee that this will not go off out into the air and the particles into our community. So that's why it was so intensely timed.
Yeah, and I guess to dovetail just off of what you said, which is, I mean, there's an actual dust monitoring plan and compliance and monitors that either have gone up or will go up, and I think that's another thing that, you know, was a part of the partnership with MI Next Cities and the Dearborn Public Health Department. And I think they may or may not talk about the air quality monitors today, but we're going to be monitoring air quality around these sites, all of them, and particulate matter constituents. I mean, this gets into some real detail that you can tell there's actual like scientific backing to a lot of the practices that we're hoping to implement here. So I think this is one of the better written ordinances that I've chanced across in our time here.
Yeah, just the final, before I pass over to Councilman Paris, another thing to mention, I think that we did mention in our mayor's briefing, is this was also not done without the support of the business owners. So these people are in business, been in business for many, many years. They were called in, they were given opportunity to explain why they felt this was fair or unfair, what could they do. And that's what happens when you make a good ordinance, when you get both sides in and not one side unilaterally making a decision to hear them out. And I think that's why it was so crucial that it took time to get to where we're at. So I'm very pleased as well. Councilman Paris?
Thank you, Council President. I do want to say that I know that this probably has been 5 to 7 years in the making to bring this ordinance forward as we learn more information at the mayor's briefing and the committee of the whole. What I wanted to do, though, is even going forward to what my colleague made mention about the 500 feet changing to 300 feet to be a long line of notification that the city has right now anyways. And I know Kaylee is here, but the Planning Commission, as an example, will send out notices for within the 500 or within the 300 feet. But they also have gone so far now as also making a concerted effort to notify neighborhood associations within that area, so we can get notice out to an even larger area. So it may be something to talk to Kaylee about, and maybe just as a matter of an internal procedure. We've got the 300 feet, but we can go further than that because it does affect more than just the people within a 300-foot radius. And I think that's why a lot of the Planning Commission has now gone into notifying neighborhood associations within those areas also.
All right, thank you, Councilman. Any other questions or comments? All right, Mr. Clerk, can we have the first reading?
This is the first reading of ordinance number 24-1808, an ordinance to amend the nuisance chapter, chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Dearborn by adding Article 9, Section 13-531 to 13-558, entitled Bulk Storage and Handling. Resolution by council members El Sawafi and Paris to table the ordinance.
Okay, any unanimous roll shall be attached unless hearing any objections. Hearing none, so is attached. Next item.
Item 17, resolution by council members Paris and Hamud awarding a contract to Beckett and Rader, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $407,000 as a housing consultant for the Lanyo neighborhood.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. The city is seeking to retain Beckett and Reader Company to provide professional service in developing neighborhood master plan and recommendations to streamline zoning and permit approvals for housing construction in East Dearborn, leveraging our parcels owned by the city in the area bounded by Lanyo, Warren, Wyoming, and Brant. The results of this work will enable the city to solicit home builders and developers to increase opportunities for home ownership in Dearborn. The evaluation team on behalf of Economic Development Department recommends the award of the contract to Beckett and Reader Incorporated as the housing consulting for the Lanyo neighborhood, which shall be charged to project C08000 Wayne County Home Consortium. The contract shall be valid for a period of one-time purchase, and the requested amount is $407,000. This project will be funded entirely from the home dollars provided by the city through the federal government and Wayne County Home Consortium Fund. A general fund is not being impacted. The project is estimated to take 12 to 13 months. Unfortunately, we don't have a good visual of this to put on the screen for you, but this is an area that is underdeveloped and is showing much interest. I think this is, we talked about it in our community hall, a great way to set the table for business, for developers to come in, because the kind of work that has to be done, if it's not done by us in the city, you would not see the homes being able to be developed. It wouldn't be cost effective. So I think this is a great idea. I appreciate the Economic Development Department and the mayor and the administration of bringing this forward. And to thank that area over there that was very underutilized. And some projects that came online over the last 5 or 6 years, we hope would spur to this, and it did. So somebody like myself that's been on the council for this time, to see that transition actually take shape is excellent. So I do appreciate this, and hopefully this will get us some good build. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Okay, hearing and seeing none, unanimous roll shall be attached. Next item.
Item 18, resolution by council members Hamud and Enos awarding a 1-year sole source contract to the Michigan Public Health Institute in the amount of $90,970 for a public health assessment with an expiration date of January 31st, 2025, and requesting immediate effect.
Okay, the Dearborn Health Department, DPH, received a grant in 2022 to conduct a community health needs assessment. The purpose of this grant was to establish DPH for its first-time community health assessment that captures a full range of health throughout the life course of the entire city. DPH seeks to facilitate a community health assessment for Dearborn to identify community assessment needs for those that live in our city, recognize the rich diversity in the city, and in conjunction with purchasing, recommends a sole source purchase with the public health assessment from Michigan Public Health Institute. The contract is for 1 year to expire January 31st of 2025. The total requested amount is $90,910, of which $10,970 comes from General Fund, Public Health, and Welfare Contractual Services Fund. DPH will assess the health needs of the Dearborn community and collect crucial data that will help us understand the health landscape of our citizens so that we can better target initiatives, programs, and policies to our residents. So I know there was a lot of questions during the committee of the whole, and you had the directors here now, so we appreciate you attending tonight. I know you had some of your, I don't want to say fellows. Staff here that did an excellent job, but I know some of my colleagues wanted to hear from you. So, Director, if you'd just like to introduce yourself, and we're going to open up for some questions on it.
Ali Abazid, Director of Public Health.
So I think one of the first questions, Dr. Abazid, was I know that this has been, when we created your department of one, we knew there was going to be more around it. And we, of course, I follow all the stuff that you've been doing. And with the mayor and the administration taking an eye on policy, everything having a public health lens on it, I think it's tremendous. But can you speak more to what this health assessment will lead to, or what you hope will lead it to?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, starting off with the recognition that cities our size typically don't have health departments. We're doing things a different way. We're piloting a new model for public health. And I think that's an exciting thing. Residents of Dearborn should be really excited that we're modeling a new sort of approach to public health. Community health needs assessments are one of the sort of 10 essential functions of public health. And the idea there is pretty simple. You survey the health needs of the community. And the idea is by collecting data, by conducting focus groups, by doing key stakeholder interviews, by doing a whole range of things, you're collecting information that you can then use to target policies, programs, plans, and procedures customized to the unique demographic of every city. The reality is the way that public health functions nationally is you have about 26 or 27 cities that are required to have a health department across the country. Those are cities with a population of over 700,000. Outside of that, if you don't live in one of those 26 cities, your health authority is in the hands of the county. And so Dearborn remains in the jurisdiction of Wayne County. Wayne County runs its own community health needs assessment every 3 or 4 years. You all know as good as well as I do, the needs of Dearborn are not the same as the needs of Dearborn Heights, are not the same as the needs of Livonia, are not the same as the needs of Westland, other Wayne County cities. And so this community health needs assessment is not something that we set out to do when we launched as a department. As you all recall, I had fellows, and we got to work on just figuring out what a health assessment might look like in Dearborn. The reality is we received a $100,000 grant from the DMC Foundation. We're about 2-3 years ahead of schedule on that, and when you get that money, you run with it. And so that's why we are conducting this health assessment to survey for the first time ever, I should add, the health needs of Dearborn.
Excellent. For my colleagues, I'd like to open for any questions. Councilman Hammoud?
I think one of the conversations we had at the Committee of the Whole had more to center around why a single source contract. And so I do appreciate your department sending the follow-up information that was requested, including the scope of work and the letter of, essentially like a letter of support as to why they believe that they're fit to do the project that you outlined for them. I think part of what we discussed, and I think you're, I want to call them deputies, but like you have 6 employees, so I call them all your deputies. I think what they were pointing out was, this is very specialized work. And I mean, the first part is kind of like, building a community, community members and stakeholders and things like that. But then when you get later into the part where you actually discuss community health improvement plans and things like that, I think, it makes sense, at least to me, that you're going to need a little bit of outside help to understand best practices for these types of surveys. And you're doing it at quite a low cost of $10,000 overall budget from us. So I've had issues with single source contracts in the past, or all kinds of bidding issues, but on this one specifically, I personally don't see a problem. So I hope your community needs assessment goes forward. And I know that we've been talking about this for a year, and I'm excited to see how this goes for you guys.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Al-Sawafi?
Thank you, Council President. Director, thank you so much for being here and for bringing this forward. You've been in Dearborn for a while as a director. What kind of, after collecting the data points, what kind of programs or policies do you hope to come up with?
Yeah, it's so just one quick point on Councilman Hammoud's statement. The $10,000 that we're using from general funds comes from the DMC Foundation grant, and so this is all grant money that's going towards this proposal. And we also negotiated that price down. So it's not. I think within our directorship, our IT director Mansoud has a reputation for being a good negotiator. I don't know. I brought it down by $5,000, so maybe I can be competitive there.
Good
Right,
job.
right.
Good job. Well, that's well noted. Thank you.
Councilman Aswafi, to your question. So we don't know what we don't know. I mean, you know, I can list off what I perceive to be sort of the 5 to 10 biggest health issues in Dearborn.
Yes.
I think you all can too. The reality is we've all been using patchwork data forever because Dearborn doesn't have good data. That's because of myriad reasons, one of them being it's difficult to capture the full range of a city when you don't have a health department to do that. And so by conducting not just those surveys that collect quantitative data, you know, do you smoke, do you have access to a park, are you able to call someone in a moment's emergency, we're also conducting those focus groups and those interviews that are capturing stories, capturing qualitative data. And then the idea there is that CHNA's community health needs assessments have two processes. One is you collect the data, you put that data out to the public, and then two is the second part of this is a community health improvement plan, which is something that MPHI specializes in taking that CHNA data and then putting a plan together. Now, as you all read in the proposal, we're going to be involved in every step of the way. So this is not going to be something where outsiders come in and design something for our city. We're going to be working alongside them all through the 12 months.
Any specific program you can think of that would come out of this data
I mean,
gathering?
you know, so we just announced our air quality monitoring plan last week. I imagine that there could be something that localizes a certain segment of our city is more prone to asthma, or the data shows that they're more prone to asthma. Again, we can all guess those things now, but it's better to have data. That allows us to then take that air quality monitoring data and potentially do something more robust with it. We can talk about cardiovascular plans. We can talk about collaborating with some of the health systems in the area to bring down diabetes. I imagine those could be potential programs, but I'm speculating.
Right, and that's what we're really, at least I'm interested in, right? We're going to collect the data, but what we're going to do about it, and what are the residents going to see. You mentioned Wayne County conducting a community health needs assessment, but what is it about that assessment that you feel like is missing, that you need to do your own assessment here?
How much time do you got?
Just top
We
3
don't have that much
points.
time.
I think the whole idea that we launched
Because
this
they're doing an
department
assessment on the whole county, on
for the whole
each
county.
community, right? So
It doesn't necessarily sort of fixate on each community. So if you read the Wayne County Community Health Needs Assessment, there isn't a page for Dearborn, a page. No, it doesn't really operate that way. I personally believe that the county-led model of public health has failed. I think the pandemic showed us that. I think there's a reason why Dearborn is doing what it's doing, which is rewriting the public health playbook. And so I think people are the experts of their experiences, and I think that cities can be most responsive to their constituents. And I think from a health perspective, a health department is uniquely situated to be able to respond to those health needs.
That's all I have. Thank you, Director.
Thank you very much, Director. Any other, Councilman Paris?
Thank you, Council President.
Of course, yeah.
I just wanted to make mention, you're talking about other partnerships possibly. You made mention about Wayne County's responsible for the 30, some other communities within their jurisdiction. But keeping in mind too, that Beaumont just had a study not too long ago before they switched to Corwell. So as far as talking about not particularly the needs, there is a couple pages within their most recent health assessment that does just strictly go along with the city of Dearborn.
Mm-hmm.
But my question for you then is, if we're gonna have group surveys or focus groups, is there gonna be any door-to-door surveying at all that we can possibly foresee? I know there's 3 phases that we're gonna be working on before we actually implement whatever the plan might be, the final plan. But do you anticipate any door-to-door surveys?
There could be, and I say there could be because the best evidence shows that going door to door may not work. What does work is putting out solicitations, setting up sort of pop-up shops, I'm going to call it, at community organizations, whether that's Access, whether that's churches, synagogues, mosques, and then people come to you to fill out the survey. One thing that we focus on in the development of the CHNA is the science and the evidence shows that if you want people to fill out a 25 to 30-minute survey, you better pay them for it. We built that into this budget. People will get paid for their time. If our census number is 110,000, you try to get anywhere between 2,000 to 3,000 survey responses. You're talking about a really reliable statistical model that can help us say definitively that these are issues that are happening in the community. To your first point, Corwell, Beaumont at the time, we had just launched the department when they were sort of going through their health assessment process. This is going to be a much different health assessment process. BOMA and every health system, whether it's University of Michigan or otherwise, they do health assessments because they're required by law to do one every 3 years as a result of the Affordable Care Act. But they're focused on clinical indicators, cholesterol, blood pressure, heart disease, things that are useful, but not things that I think capture the full range of health, especially in the modern era. So though I respect their effort, I think that their model and that model entirely isn't one that gives us a lot of information.
Okay, I thank you for that. The only other question that I have, and we talked a little bit about this, the committee of the whole, but if we're going to get groups of people and try to extract data from them, what assurances can we give people about the security of their data, whether it be for HIPAA regulations or otherwise? What happens with that data? How do we safeguard it?
Yeah, it's a good question. The first point is that every survey that's collects no identifiable data. So your name, nothing that could precisely locate you is going to be given to us. And I should also say it's not us, it's MPHI. And there's a reason why we sole source this. MPHI has the reputation, they have the data safeguards. They are required by federal law to conduct themselves in a certain way when it comes to data security. And that's another reason why we're going to MPHI. Two things. One is that health departments don't typically do their own health assessments because, we're the government and people tend to be a little bit more mistrustful of government. And MPHI is not government. They were created to bridge the gap between government and academia. And so MPHI will be collecting the data. It won't be the government. And they're under sort of, strict protocols to protect that data.
Thank you.
Yep.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments from my colleagues? All right. Thank you, Dr. Abazeed.
Thank you.
Hearing and seeing none, unanimous roll shall be attached. Next item.
Item number 19, resolution by council members Enos and El Sawafi authorizing the finance director to recognize and appropriate a donation from the Museum Guild in the amount of $7,942.29 in order to purchase a microfilm reader for the library and historical museum and requesting immediate effect.
All right, this is a request to authorize for our museum to purchase a new microfilm reader and printer. The museum's current microfilm scanner is no longer able to print clearly, and the technology is several decades out of date, and thus is not compatible with new software. The museum coordinated with the library to select an appropriate replacement while securing a GSA pricing discount through our city. The Scan Pro 3500 costs $7,722.14, and the membership program costs at an additional $220.15 a year. The cost will be paid fully by a generous donation from the Museum Guild in the amount of $7,942.29. The addition of the new working microfilm scanner will ensure the following: continued use of the scanning of hundreds of microfilm reels in the museum's collection. Our curator is here on Committee of the Whole. I asked him twice, and he did say 3 million. I said, "You sure 3 million?" He said 3 million photos to be captured. Right, guys?
Yeah.
All right. I wanted to make sure because I circled it. So there's a lot of work that this, probably gonna need another one of these machines after this, so, which is great for history and capturing. To access high-quality digitalized newspapers, magazines, historic documents, and more of every Dearborn resident visiting the researchers that can use. Any questions or comments on this? Hearing and seeing none, unanimous roll shall be attached. Next item.
Item 20, resolution by Councilmember Serini and Enos, implementing a small business grant to award 20 grants in the amount not to exceed $5,000 each to assist local small businesses, subject to certain stipulations. Also allocating funds from Plan Z03422 in the amount of $100,000 and requesting immediate effect.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clerk. This is exciting news. The 34th City Council wishes to implement a small business grant program in the amount of $100,000 to assist 20 local businesses with the following stipulation. The Dearborn business shall be in business for at least a minimum of 5 years and have no more than 15 employees. The funds will assist the small business to grow, expand, improve, including improvements of facades, awnings, outdoor improvements, which improve and beautify the outdoor appearance of the businesses and make the outdoor portion of the business more enjoyable to our citizens. No more than 10 of the 20 grants will be awarded to qualifying businesses that are located in our West Downtown Development Authority, or West DDA, or East Downtown Development Authority, East DDA, as they have similar programs like this. The 34 City Council will allocate these funds for Project Z03422, $100,000 for this program. The small business grant will award up to $5,000, as stated, with an applicant contribution of 50% match of $2,500 for a total grant award. All applicants must complete each step of the application process to receive the entire grant and submit a current business plan with application with the Department of Economic Development, which will begin accepting applications within 30 days after approval of this. So just for a genesis, I asked the director to come up. Myself and many people that know what the lifeline of the city of Dearborn, we love Ford Motor Company, Carhartt, Beaumont Health, but the small businesses are the lifeline. And I know the mayor's instituted business liaisons to go out from your department from the beginning as he took over. Myself being, and my family having restaurants and being in small business, I felt this was a great way to use this money. And I want to make sure that the residents understand this was not captured tax dollars. This is about $10,000 from funds that the council had saved in labor costs. But more importantly, this was from past councils allocating penalties on businesses that did not comply, and we put this into a fund. I thought it was the time to bring it forward, and I was very pleased that my colleagues unanimously agreed with me. We want to help our small businesses and make this an easy process. As many that were around during the COVID and found out about funds and grant programs that are available during the government time, a lot of them were so complex, asking so much data, that many people had forgone it, and we turned back some of the money because it was not used. That is not the plan of the legislative body here tonight. So Director Torty, if you'd like to just introduce yourself and give us some synopsis on it. I know that I did speak with you on it a couple times since we're really funding it to you with the framework, but we want to make sure that it can be used and want to just get some input from you on it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Council President. Jordan Torty, Economic Development Director. We are really excited and grateful to be able to work on this program with you all. I've been briefing my team on it over the past several weeks as you all have announced that you wanted to get this off the ground. We are ready to get to work if this is adopted. We're ready to put together the application process. We'll put it out there timely. We'll work with our colleagues in communications to make sure that this has citywide reach. Everybody's aware of it. We're going to eliminate as many steps as possible to get this money out the door. And what we'll do, we'll keep you in communication as we build these items out. We'll make sure if there are any concerns, we'll keep a dialogue going. But our goal will be to make sure that not only do we make it easy to apply, we get the money out the door, we work with the businesses that apply to be successful, and we'll also build milestones into the process to make sure if we need to, for example, in programs, and I've administered a facade program in a past life.
Yes.
We have, obviously, you mentioned, Council President, the programs that we have in the East and West DDAs. You also want to build in milestones in case you get a first wave of awardees, something happens, business circumstances change, they're not able to go through, you go back to the original applicants. You make sure that we do that early so that, within a period of time, 12 months' time, the money's out the door and it's not still sitting there. So that's our mission. We're really excited to do it, and we'll be there to go, get it done.
Well, thank you, Director. That's what's great about us, and we don't have the Office of Management and Budget, as they do in Congress. So when we come up with these, we need your expertise, and that's why I did call you, because that was a concern, and you brought that to my attention, that we would give you the flexibility for some that did not be able to come through, for you to put that money back out there and beautify our city. I know from my days in the restaurant, pulling chairs and tables in and out, outside facades are very important. It's the image that you're presenting, and it's the image of our city. I'm very pleased to have been able to work with you, that you have that experience in the past. And I did get a chance to speak to every one of the council members when this idea of coming through, what I wanted to bring through. And I wanted to just give Councilman Enos a little time to say what he thinks, because you're still operating a small restaurant, bar now, and we've been out of that business for a good 15 years. So I wanted to get your intake on it, and Councilman Enos actually helped me come up with the actual dollar amount that said that would impact. Because Director Torty, as you know, there was funds larger than this during the COVID time, which people passed on. because they asked for P&L, profit and loss statements over 3 years, tax returns. I mean, it was really intense, and that's not what this is. So, Councilman Enos, thank you. If you'd like to give some insight.
Just real brief, this is definitely going to benefit the small business community, neighborhoods, and the city. And I'd like to thank Council President Sereni for bringing this forward. So I think this is a great gesture on the city council's part.
I appreciate that. Councilman Hamud?
Yeah, so, you know, at first I want to thank Council President, because when he says concerns were brought up, that was about an hour worth of negotiations and arguments between me and him. And actually,
that is true.
And I think, and between him, me, and then a lot of discussions, also Jordan put in a lot of work on this one, and we kind of managed to square the circle there. I think we landed in a great place, honestly. You know, when we first started, it was like, you know, the intention was there, and I think hammering out a full process and then what I also really appreciate is my colleagues. You know, we were able to get together and meet on a reasonable and good solution that honestly actually makes sense. Which and again, I mean, we have some of my other colleagues who might speak, you know, expertise in these types of programs. We have directors, so it was one of those things that kind of came together pretty quickly, and everybody had very good intentions around it. And I think this is one of those things where it's like, you know, Dearborn really shining at getting things done that we all kind of agree on. So honestly, it was a great job, and I appreciate you bringing this forward.
Thank you, Councilman Hamud, and it was good to get your insight, because of course I was excited and running with it, and you did bring some very valid points that did make a difference, and I do appreciate that as well. Councilman El Swafi.
Thank you, Council President. And I just want to say again, I want to thank Council President for bringing this forward, and I think that's what's unique about this council. Everybody has a different experiences and things that they really care about, and just pushing our city forward. This is a grant program, something I worked on before, and just for you, Director, for these businesses, what kind of documents should they expect to have when they're applying? Are we talking about something like P&Ls, which we hope to avoid, or what are they looking at?
Absolutely not. So, Councilman, good question. While I'm still working with my team to put the application together, what we're going to be looking at is the very basics. So, like, building off of the resolution that you're starting with, you know, the current business plan, just show us how things work for you, and also just the bare minimums to do the plans and the permits. That's essentially what we're focusing on. You know, I'll look with my team if there are other best management practices, things that we'd want in there, sure, but we're going to try to keep that list microscopic. We want to just focus on what are you going to use it for? Does it comply with the intent of council? Are these the activities that they want to fund? Do you have a business plan? Are you show that you're generally sustainable? We're not going to run it to the same threshold as some of those COVID programs. We are not business plan analysts, so we're going to focus on, the way you all established it was, this is a business that has some longevity here in the community. We're going to look at that. If they can get a permit, if they've got plans that meet code, and if it meets the intent that you have, that's generally going to be our North Star.
So for business plan, are you looking at numbers or just a narrative of this is my business plan?
Well, the only caveat that I'm still going to be putting the details together with this application, okay. I'm leaning toward a narrative. Just give me the story of how this works.
Okay, and then pushing this out, how are you planning on doing that? Are we doing information sessions? How do we educate people and business owners on how to apply and what the process is like? For example, at the county, before we pushed out a grant program, we had several information sessions, identifying the date when the applications are going to be open and how you can prepare ahead of time. So when the application is open, everybody's ready to go.
We're actually considering an info session. We did some of that with, when we did Ramadan nights last year, we had some of those. Here's how you get prepared, here's how you set up for this. So we're thinking of doing at least one of those, and then really having a good blitz on social media, having stuff on the website, having some print materials available at the Horseshoe out there. But yeah, we experienced some success with the info session as well, so we'll be deploying that.
Okay, and my last point, Director, thank you so much. You've been doing a great job since you joined our team, so I really appreciate you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Councilman Hamud?
I noticed you said an online application. I just want to say thank you that you guys are working with IT to create online applications, because online applications for our stuff was not always a common thing in the city of Dearborn. So this is one of those things,
mail it in.
That would be super cool if you guys get this done. I just give you thoughts on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Abraham?
Thank you. Just one quick question. I know we're talking about businesses in Dearborn, but is this exclusively for brick and mortar locations, or are mobile
Yes.
locations
It was
eligible.
my intent for brick and mortar specifically because of the fact that it was beautifying the city and the community.
Okay.
I think that was its intent.
That
of
was
the
my
part.
understanding. I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, well, that's good. We'll let him know that that's the legislative intent, yeah. No food trucks.
Oh.
Well, I mean,
is it?
I don't want to be,
No, he-
I want
he
to be decaling
Yeah, I mean,
mobile trailers or something.
no, it's good. No, it's good. Good
They
point by
don't
Councilman
legally
Abraham.
exist.
That is the flexibility that a council leaves to the administrative, but it is based on what they call legislative intent. And it is intent for brick and mortars to beautify the city. These are, some portion of tax dollars. We want to make sure, they can be argued that it's all tax dollars. We want to make sure that it's being used to beautify the city and assist. And that's why there's a match. I don't believe in handouts myself, and that's why we're gonna put 5,000, they're gonna put 2,500, it's 50% match. It's a good working, I believe, a good working process that should result in some really nice changes and help some businesses spur up for the spring and get going.
Definitely.
All right. We have Mr. Romer.
Yeah,
from
I
our
just wanted to point you to the resolve section with the application. There's 6 criteria listed there that's supposed to be included in the application that Mr. Torty's department's going to do.
Yes.
Within 60 days. So when you're talking about that criteria, it's actually in the resolution itself.
We appreciate that. Councilman Swaff, you see that right there? Yep. Excellent. And Mr. Torty, you're okay with these?
100%, yes, sir.
All right, so we're not gonna get no calls saying you wanted P&Ls.
No.
I know, I'm just joking. No, I appreciate that. I really do. And I know you know the intent, and we're very fortunate that you have executed plans, these similar grant programs in another city. All right, thank you.
For the narrative, don't look for commas and periods.
We will not be evaluating grammar.
Yeah.
As long as we can.
Should be, I'm selling hamburgers.
All right, there you go.
That's it. All right, excellent. Any other questions or comments from my colleagues? Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Unanimous roll shall be attached. Excellent, thank you. Next item.
Item 21, resolution by Councilmember Serini and Enos adopting the proposed council rules of order by amending section 7.3 and requesting immediate effect.
Okay, this item is to propose amendments to the council rules of order. The amendments are found in section 7.3 of the council rules of order. The change would be that private citizens and/or agencies or groups cannot unilaterally place items on the committee of the whole, should say, right, meeting agenda. Such requests shall be added to the meeting agenda, must be submitted to the council office by 5 p.m. Tuesday, deadline, and must have support of at least one council member. In addition, if Tuesday falls on a legal holiday, that results on the closure of the council office, then the deadline should be on Wednesday at 5 p.m. This, I believe, was an oversight. I'd like to thank our legal department and our Councilman Paris. This was our intent, or I believe my intent from day one, regarding bringing matters forward to the city council for city business. And there wasn't, we believe, one spot where we missed it in the past. So hopefully this corrects it. This does require a roll, Mr. Roman, this does require, because it's 5 votes, requires a roll call vote, correct?
It does not require a roll call if you have the 5.
If you have the 5, correct. Yeah, absolutely. But this is a good change to our council rules. The other one was by the clerk, which made a very good point. There is many holidays that did land on Monday and could technically put the clerk in a violation, but his department, his staff has always worked through that. This actually helps, the second portion helps him. My bigger concern was we're 7 council members, and that if a resident felt that something should be brought forward that they don't want to say in public comment in a legal form, that they have their option to bring it through with only one council member to go through. Any questions, Councilman Abraham?
Yeah, just for clarification.
Yes.
Again, I apologize for not being here Thursday. Page 10, the second change, I don't know if this is a clerical mistake or if the summary's wrong, but it says if Monday falls on a legal holiday, it will result in the closure of the council office. The deadline will be essentially moved to Wednesday. Is it supposed to be if Monday or if Tuesday?
So it originally came to us as Tuesday, at least that's the notes we had, and the clerk told us it's really the Monday, because that's what, they can't get the materials to you over the weekend, right? And that holiday falls on a Monday, then they're delayed. So it should be the Monday. So the backup, the actual revision in the rules states Monday, which is correct.
Okay, so the summary.
The summary is incorrect.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Remember, this requires a 5 minimum vote. Is any objection to unanimous roll? Hearing and seeing none, unanimous roll shall be attached. Next item.
Nothing further from the clerk's office, thank you.
All right, great. I have just a couple things before I turn over to my colleagues. I don't know if we have that photo. Well, when you always have one award, there you go. When you have one award from one high school, you got to get one from another one. So we had in here last council meeting, Nassim Mashur from Dearborn High School that broke a record, 1,000 points. This gentleman, Mohammed Habhab, I don't know if that picture really does him well. He's well over 6'5", I believe. Also hit as senior as 1,000 points, and this young man is a tremendous young man. I know him personally. He has a scholarship to Central Michigan University, which he accepted, a Division I offer. Very good player, and the sky's the limit for him. Unfortunately, he was unable to make these next two meetings due to his class schedule, but we wanted to recognize him as a council, and we are sending out a citation to him, and wanted to make sure that we did not mention that to our residents. So Forson High School, right there behind Dearborn High. We're waiting for Etzel Ford next. Etzel Ford will be next. I also just wanted to really thank, I talked to some of my colleagues, really thank the clerk on the job done for this election. Folks, this was, I mean, we've never seen anything like this before. Early voting. I mean, we really had to ask, can we vote on the day of the election, too? I mean, I asked that early on. That's how intense this was. 9 days early. You know, I voted at Precinct 31. Mr. Clerk, a tremendous amount of staff there. Very, very educated, very helpful. They let me use my own pen. I didn't use the marker in there.
Okay.
And it would put it through the machine like I'm old school. I like to see it go through the machine and click over. But a tremendous job. Of course, these elections are part of our democracy, and this was a change with early voting, and I want to make sure that the clerk was recognized of a great job by himself, his staff, and a tremendous amount of planning. We had Councilman Abraham actually brought it up to me. I forgot that there was a nonpartisan ballot, so there was 3 different ballots. There was a language ballot. So tremendous job, Mr. Clerk, and I just wanted to thank you from the council.
I really appreciate that, thank you.
Yeah.
We did a lot of hard work by staff and everyone. Actually, I was gonna bring it up, I don't know if you want me to bring it up now?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Clerk, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to go over some things that happened yesterday. First
The
of all,
good stuff.
Pardon me?
The good ones.
Oh, yeah, the
Yeah,
good
right.
stuff. It's all good stuff. We had over 19,000 people that voted, 19,101. 851 of those came from the 9 early voting days. 6,060 came from absentee ballots, and another 12,190 voted yesterday on Election Day itself. And it was truly a team effort. We got a lot of help from the mayor's office, and the mayor in particular, who allowed us to borrow some of his department heads and others that acted as site coordinators throughout the whole city and our precincts to make things run smoothly, and they helped tremendously on that and delivered things that needed to be delivered and helped at the precincts themselves. Tremendous help from the police department, beginning with the chief. We had a meeting, I think it was about a week or 2 before the election, sat down with the commanders, lieutenants, sergeants with a plan, and the plan worked perfectly. They were there to help us throughout the early voting stages and on election day, and it was just great that I could just call on them and have them be our partners on this. The council, of course, we couldn't have done it without you guys, because you supplied the budget, the money, in order to buy the machines that we needed, the equipment that we needed, and pay for the personnel. We hired hundreds of people. We probably hired a good 200 to do the early voting, another 300 plus to do the election day itself. Trying to coordinate 500 people are not easy. These are people who just come in and work a day or 2 or 3, or just on election day itself, but we still have to train them. And I thank my staff for that. And finally, my Deputy Director, Tracy Boudreau, Election Supervisor, Megan Linsbinski, my full-time staff, my part-time staff, and of course, all the workers. It was a team effort. They made, I think, the city of Dearborn shine yesterday. We had news media, as you know, from all over the world. I mean, I talked to people from Spain, from Italy, from London, Australia, Germany. They were coming from everywhere to come to Dearborn to film us and talk to us about how we run our elections. And I think they walked away really impressed on how we do things here in Dearborn. So thank you for the kudos.
Well,
But it goes to a
absolutely.
lot of people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I do appreciate that, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention all the volunteers that were working for the candidates, or, well, for the, either parties and, our millages for the school. So we do appreciate it. And it was great that with the administration, because that's always been a concern of the working together and the collaboration.
Yep.
It takes us all to get it through, so we do appreciate that. That's all I have for myself. I'd like to open up for my colleagues. Councilman Abraham?
And again, I just echo what Council President said about the election, but I did want to specifically note that the results of the school millage election, I don't know if they're typically renewals, I think one was a replacement.
Yes.
But the community came out and really supported our school systems, K through 12 and Henry Ford College. I think Henry Ford passed 66 or 67%, and over 70% for K through 12. I know at times we take our public school systems for granted. It's expensive, but there's a tremendous amount of value there. Nothing in life is free. Somebody's paying for everything along the way. And I just want to say that I appreciate that the voters came out and showed their support for the school system, because that is really the reinvestment that's needed for the next generation of our young leadership in Dearborn. And hopefully that school system will continue to produce quality leaders and ambassadors, as I used the word earlier, like Mary Bruno, that we honored, to continue to stay in this community with that knowledge base.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman Abraham. And just to piggyback on that, I think many of my colleagues did receive calls. The schools did ask to come to the council and get permission to give the presentation. I can tell you, I thought they did a great job, and I think there was a stark difference. When you lose a millage, you're so used to them passing, you lose one back a few years ago, then you say, you know what? We need to do a better job communicating. And I thought they did a tremendous job of communicating their intent and where this funding was going. And the superintendent, was fabulous. Dr. Maleko, he called me on a Saturday with some number I never heard of from out of area, and he said, I'm not using my school phone because I don't want to do anything improper. I go, well, that's good. That's all good. And, they really did a lot of work on the ground to make sure that everyone was on board. And not only elected officials, neighborhood associations, there's even tax groups that were always opposing some of these millages that agreed that these were viable. So I do agree with Councilman Abraham. I think it just needed to be said that they did do a different job than they did in the past to make sure that message was resonated through. So, anything else from my colleagues? Councilman Paris.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to make mention of a couple things. I attended a funeral home visitation today for Detective Sergeant James Sarb that retired back in 2000. I just wanted to let you know he passed February 25th, and he had 32 years of service with the city. And he was president of the Retirees Association for the Police and Fire. I just wanted to pass it on, since we have a representative for the police department here too. Talking to his wife Karen today, she wanted to express the gratitude that the police department, and especially Chief Shaheen, went out of its way to contact her and facilitate anything that she needed. And there were some police interns at Hal Peterson Funeral Home today too, but she just wanted to express thank you for that. But really gonna miss Jim Sarb, very valued member of the police department back when I served also. But I also want to bring up the fact that he passed on February 25th, but we lost another individual February 25th, Detective Sergeant Ernie Hampton, that passed away, unfortunately. He had 37 years of service, and he retired back in 1996. And I just wanted to make mention, his wife, Linda, she was the first police officer, female police officer that we had in the city of Dearborn, and I believe it was 1976 when she hired on, and she was #1 in her class in the police academy. I remember back then. But I just wanted to let you know. And then Christopher Hampton was a sergeant with the late Chris Hampton, with the Dearborn Police Department also. That family has given so much to this community, and they've endured so much over the years too. So I just wanted to make mention of that because we have a really strong police and fire department within the city of Dearborn that give their all, and that continues even when they're no longer on duty as a police and fireman. So I just wanted to say thank you all, and please bring it back, Commander Zelazny, to the Chief of Police. I would appreciate that. Thank you.
No, thank you, Councilman Paris. Anything else from my colleagues? All right, Ms. McClanahan, anything from the administration or the Chief Operating Office Department?
Nothing from me. It's always a pleasure to be here with you.
Can't go a whole meeting with you never saying anything.
No, I appreciate it, sir. It's always great to spend some time with you all. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Clerk, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, sir.
All right. At that time, we will now open it to our second public comment. Anyone here to address the city council regarding city business, please step forward, state your name and address for the record. All right, hearing and seeing none, we will close the public comment portion. Motion to adjourn by Councilman El Sawafi. We are adjourned.
You missed it.
Good job. Thanks, guys. Good job. Thanks.
Reverend, thank you. Appreciate it. And a pleasure meeting your husband tonight, too.